When your house is balanced and harmonized, your home is tapped into universal source energy. It is in alignment and in balance, like the Tao, into this thin line of just flow.
Hello, and welcome to Holistic Ambition, where we talk with visionary leaders about creating a career, relationships, and life that is sustainable to your well-being, meaningful, and a lot of fun in the process. I am your host, Stephanie Thoma, founder of Holistic Ambition and author of Confident Introvert. I am so excited to introduce our guest today, Patricia Lohan. She is the founder of PowerHouse Feng Shui and the author of The Happy Home, a guide to creating a happy, healthy, wealthy life, and how to become a business powerhouse using Feng Shui. She helps women make their homes and businesses magnetic to money, luck, and blessings. She has helped thousands of people across the globe embrace Feng Shui and create lasting changes in their businesses, homes, and lives. Patricia has been featured in media around the world, including the New York Times, CNN, Fox, Forbes, the New York Post, She Knows, Essence, Mind Body Green, USA Today, and Elephant Journal. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are so lucky to have you, Patricia. I would love to hear about, the power of Feng Shui. It seems like this is your stuff.
This is my thing. I've been into feng shui since I was 15, and I just always knew there was something going on with your physical environment. And I used to be moving things and figuring things out. And I had my first books about feng shui, and I was trying to change my own bedroom. And to be honest, the biggest thing that happened for me when it came to feng shui was I feng shuied my new apartment a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago now. And when I moved in, I was like, I'm feng shuiing this place and I'm going to call in my future husband. And I did very quickly afterwards. He was also into feng shui. And when we moved in together, I said, I want to do the feng shui in our house here. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'm up for that. And when we did do it, we had a 6-figure windfall. So it's really had amazing results for us. And then people started asking me more about it. And at that stage, I had trained in it and was doing it just on the side of my other holistic practice. My clients would say, oh, you're doing the feng shui, come do my house. It wasn't my primary focus. But what I realized was that doing all of the inner work, all the healing, all of that is very important. But though you're going to someone doing the work and then you're coming home to the same environment, and that physical environment, if the frequency and energy of that doesn't change, it actually keeps you stuck in the same patterns, because it's a mirror of your internal world is a mirror of your external. If you don't change the external, the internal, it doesn't support that internal change.
Yeah, and you brought up that you've been into this since you were 15. So I even had a question around what was your life like before and after feng shui, but it sounds like you've really been in this. And this kind of lends itself to the question of, let's say that someone is renting a place or doesn't have too much control over their space, or maybe they are a literal child, like how can they begin to harness the power of feng shui in maybe even the littlest of ways?
I would say, you know what, we all have some space that's ours. So even if you're renting a shared house, you have your own bedroom. If you're sharing a bedroom, you have your part of the room. So, and if you have your own apartment or your own house, that is within your span of control. Okay, maybe you have a husband or a partner, but at the same time, there's definitely a lot of spaces there that you can take ownership of and start to really dive into looking at what do you have in that place, and I don't know, for some reason, and maybe it's because San Francisco, and we talked about that earlier, was that I had a client who was reviewing, going through different parts of her house, and she found a picture of her inside a cell in Alcatraz, in the bedroom, in the locker beside her bed. And this was very much a symbolic, of why is there a picture of you in a prison cell? Beside your bed, and these are the things that we can just like take for granted. Like, what is in your space, the frequency, the energy of it. I know I could talk about that here on this show with you, but absolutely everything has an energy. It has an emotional connection to it, good or bad. It's linked to somebody, something, somewhere. And that is all energy. And it's either up, it's either increasing your energy, it's either helping and supporting you, or it is keeping you stuck in old patterns or holding you back.
Oh my gosh. So that is so powerful. And just even thinking about different art pieces, right? Different people have different tastes in art. And if your taste in art is some dark stuff, maybe you're inviting that into your life. And, that kind of, I wonder if there's a way for anyone that has maybe a very eclectic taste and maybe prefers really dark color palettes or sharp edges, is there a way to transmute that? Or how would you go about, let's say you walk into a space and it seems like there are a lot of harsh elements, but they're wanting to invite in more positive things?
I think that first of all, the dark color palettes are not bad. Like, it's not like light and dark. Like Feng Shui is all about yin and yang and the balance of those two energies. So dark color palettes are not bad. Now, on the edge, and you just touched on art, there's about 50 things you've just said here that I'm like, oh, this. But when you talk about art, that is so, so, so true. Everybody's taste is very different on it, but how it can impact you is really potent. So, for example, I was actually being interviewed on a podcast one day, and this lady was telling me about, she started saying, oh my God, I can't believe it. I remember a friend of mine going through a very, very depressed time in their life. And when she went over to visit the apartment of this person who was literally like on like suicide watch, like they were on suicide watch for that person. It was just like at the end of the world. And when she got to the apartment and walked around, the pictures that were on the walls were all of those, all of those musicians who died at 27, like Kurt Cobain and Amy. It was all artists. All those artists were the pictures that were in the room. In the house. And she just said, like, she connected the dots and was like, you need to get rid of, look at all these people. They've all, like, you need to get rid of all of these. And that was the first step in changing the environment because the pictures were mirroring what was going on. Vice versa. Like, who knows? Was it the pictures that affected the person or the other way around? Who knows? But once the art was gone, there was a massive shift in that person. So that would be like, that's kind of when I do with my members and my community, I talk so much about art because I just love it because it's a very, very strong topic and huge and very vast on so many levels. But for anyone listening, I would say, and if you do have a dark piece of art, don't panic about it because you may look at it and see something beautiful and feel good. And I think what's most important with art is that does it make you feel good? Does it have a powerful, uplifting energy within you? Or does it feel like, oh, I just have that random piece up there and I have no idea what it's doing? Now, I remember a friend of mine having this conversation and I was saying to her about stormy weather, not ideal to have a picture of a storm in your home because it will mirror back storm, like that kind of energy of a storm. We want calm, we want gentle, we want flowing, which is like, what do you want in your life? You want the art to mirror that. And she realized that there was a picture in her office that had this boat, it was an abstract, but you could kind of see this boat in a storm in it. And she's like, I have to get rid of it. And she just knew because when she looked at it, she could see that. And no, when I actually, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, but that's what she could see. So everybody has their own perception of art. And what I would say is rather than being like, oh, what can I do to offset the sharp edges or the dark? Don't be afraid of it, but more be like, oh, is this something that I want to invite? Is something I want in my life? Is this the energy that I want to have? Or maybe it's time for me to change. Like we've seen crazy examples of this. I said at the beginning, I called in love calling with to into my life using feng shui, and I had a beautiful statue of this couple dancing and a beautiful picture of a couple dancing together that just evoked so much potency and power in it. But I remember a client of mine literally having a massive epiphany when she started moving through her bedroom and saw in her bedroom this picture of a single woman. Having a picture of a single woman is fine, okay? But especially if you want to remain single for a while, you're like, I'm actually happy single as I am. But if you've had a picture like she did for 13 years on the wall in her bedroom and had been single for 13 years, it was like, this is the state of the union. But when she looked at it, she realized what the painting was of. The painting was painted by Van Gogh of his mistress. And for the past 13 years, all she had ever said to her friends is like, do I have mistress written across my forehead? Why is it only married men that approach me? Why? And literally on the walls, it was on the wall, written on the walls. She was sleeping with it. And that's what she ended up calling in. So that's, it's very much our unconscious, like being mirrored in and out. So there's a lot of nuances with art. But what I would say is just look at the piece and be like, is this what I want? Is this my past? Am I ready to draw on the sand of that and start to create something new? So that's the nuances with the art. Because feng shui itself is really is a broad topic, and there's so many different layers and nuances to it. It's, for me, I like to describe it as feng shui as acupuncture for your home. So it's all about reharmonizing the energy of your home in specific areas, as opposed to like a piece of art, which will definitely have like an impact. But it's not necessarily just, that's not really what feng shui is.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that it's a combination of harnessing your intuition, taking a pause and asking, how do I feel around this piece? But that, for example, this Van Gogh piece had an energy and a story to it that was beyond this person's awareness that you worked with. And then once she discovered the story behind it. So there's so many nuggets in here for listeners and people that are tuning in right now. And you've touched on so many interesting things. And I kind of wanted to go into this, you've mentioned a couple times calling in love, and, at least one way that one of your clients kind of repelled love. Let's say that someone tuning in is like, maybe they've been single for an extended period and they're on all the apps, they're going to singles mixers, and it's not quite clicking yet. What are your recommendations from a feng shui perspective for those people?
From a feng shui perspective, is very, very important is get really clear on what you want. That's so important. It's that sense of clarity of what you want, because your home is listening and it's hearing. And like a big part of our world with our community is when you set up your environment correctly and get the energy balanced and aligned, then it's going to bring in what you want. So you need to know, first of all, like on that higher level, what it is that you want. And I had a lot of clarity around that personally when I was calling in Ken into my life. So that's the first thing I would say, like, super easy. You may have heard it before. It's manifesting, but it's not. It's just like you have to make that those very clear level, like intentions. Then you start working on your physical environment. And for love, even if your bedroom is not your actual love and marriage area, because that's kind of beyond the scope of kind of a podcast, I need you to get a compass out and figure out stuff. So let's not do that. Let's just focus on the room that is your space, your sanctuary, and look at your bedroom. And that would be the first thing I would say is stand in your bedroom and look at it and be like, okay, is there space for somebody else in this room? Like if someone was to arrive into my life, is there space for him or her to put clothes up in the wardrobe? Is there a drawer for them, free for them? Is there a side of the bed that you sleep on that you can leave space for them? It just kind of makes sense. It's like where there is a space, the universe will create it bores a vacuum. So when you create this space, you're saying, hey, I'm ready for love, I'm ready for this person. So, I've had friends who have like had the spare toothbrush, Or they, like for me, I actually bought extra hangers. I opened up my wardrobe one day and I was just like, oh my God, I've no hangers for my new man to hang up his clothes. So I halved the wardrobe. I made that happen. I got all extra black hangers. So I wouldn't even use them. I had pink ones for me and I kept these black ones. I also then in the bedroom, you need to look at like harmony and balance. So you need to think in pairs. So not just about the person in the space, but then is it a double bed? Is there space beside both sides of the bed? Is there balance in terms of bedside tables and the lamps? That it's all very harmonized and balanced. I remember looking at a woman's bedroom, and she was a lawyer, and she did an amazing legal practice and was just so incredible woman and businesswoman. And when we were feng shuiing her bedroom, and she showed me at the first kind of glimpse of it, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feng shui this. Is perfect. Like, you know, it looked aesthetically beautiful, beautiful mat bed, gorgeous headboard, two lamps, two lights. But when we started to look closely at the nuances in the place, there was like one big piece of rose quartz. She's like, I've got rose quartz to call in love, a giant piece of rose quartz. And I was like, okay, well, you need a second piece. You need two pieces. It's two people. Oh, what if I get just a smaller piece? And I'm like, well, is that what you want in your relationship? Like someone's going to be like more bigger energy than the other. Oh no. And the lamp, the candlesticks, like she had like a tall candlestick and a short one. And I was like, well, let's try and get them same size. Or even a picture on the wall that was like one heart on its own. So I was like, well, you need to set another heart or a picture of like, what kind of relationship do you want? You know, what do you want to be doing? You know, I had a client who got a picture. It was so uncanny. She got this picture from like a stock photo company and had it put on a big canvas. And it was this gorgeous picture of this couple hugging, and she was kind of tall. He was taller than her in the picture and leaning up. It was so stunning. Anyways, a few weeks later, she met this lovely man who's like now her husband. But it was so funny because she had posted the picture up for us to see, and I was like, all right. And then when I met her husband, I was like, or her boyfriend, I was like, oh my God, they look identical. It was the same as the picture. The same height difference as you man, the same hairdo. I was like, that is so uncanny. So like the piece of art is important, and you know, just having that physical space. So there's a lot of intentionality with that, and you could just have fun with it as well. You know, make the space be a sanctuary so that if someone did come into your life tomorrow, that there's space for them to just walk in and be like, oh, this feels calm. I remember people commenting, they would be in my apartment when I was single, and I had people go to the bathroom beside my bedroom, and I stood the door open because I used to keep it so well ready, like it was ready for somebody, you know, and that's where you want to be.
Yes. And oh my gosh, I have so many questions. So I am curious, whatever you're open to sharing in terms of, let's say from the time, some people get really fixated on the time, like, okay, you put the hangers in there. How long did it take? Or even if, are there ways that people can, let's say, put the hangers in there and be mindful of it, but also let go of that control to really allow it to come through? I'm curious about that. Well as,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
I suppose for me, it depends because it depends on the person. It depends actually on the energy of their homes because like that is all very like surface feng shui. It's like the tip of the iceberg. And sometimes those little nuances, like setting up your bedroom is going to like, oh my God, he's just going to arrive super quick because it just needed that shift of energy. Other times, like on that level of feng shui, it's like acupuncture for your home. In my community, in my world, we create personal reports for our home, for our clients' homes. So they send us information, we map it out, and then we'll actually look at the love and marriage area of the home, and we'll be like, oh, that is not happy energy. So we'll have to recommend a specific elemental that will need to go in there. So it could be fire, water, metal, depending on the house. And so that for me is when someone comes into our community and the results are very rapid with that because we're changing the energetics on an absolute like, you know, physical level of the house as opposed to more on an aesthetic level. So the timing part is, it depends on the level. Like sometimes that will just do it and it's like, wow, quick. And other times people will come and I was like, I did all that bedroom stuff and everything, but it hasn't happened. I'm like, well, that's because that's just the tip, and it may not be the bedroom. It may just be the energetics of that love and marriage area that is not happy. So there's a good dance on it. I think this is also where the big misunderstanding about feng shui is for many people, because they're think, oh, I'll just move my desk and I'll make loads of money. And I'm like, moving your desk is going to be great. It'll be helpful to get yourself with your back to the wall. You can see the door. But if your like finance area is missing, or if it's not good energy, or it's in a money lock, it doesn't matter what you do, like to the art or the chair or the office, that doesn't matter. It'll maybe have a tiny nudge. So for me, our tipping point is that deeper level analysis. But on the surface level, you can do a lot yourself.
Yeah. So, what's coming up for me now is around, since the space matters so much, how would you approach feng shuiing a brand new home versus, let's say, a Victorian home that has existed for 200 years, 100 years?
Actually, very similarly, because every house, it's almost like an astrological reading for your home. So basically, a house that was built in Victorian era versus a brand new house, they just have different dates of birth, and the analysis is exactly the same. For say a Victorian age home, you would be really mindful of, like, there will be a recommendation to do space clearing. And what you can often do, engage from a Victorian home is like, or an older home is, well, what happened in the house before? Because that can be especially if you're buying a new house, like, why is this house up for sale? If it's up for repossession, if there was a divorce, if there was sickness or health issues with the people, that's a serious red flag that the underlying energies of the home are not good. Does it mean it's not fixable? Not it totally can be fixable. Like, we have done that for all that's what I do with my clients, is we change the frequency and energy of your house. But for a brand new house, you actually don't know what it is. You don't know what the story is. But we can still do the analysis. And actually, there's it's very predictable when we look at the analysis of a house, of like, well, if I look at these numbers for this house, I could probably say, well, if a single person moves in, or someone moves in that's a relationship that's not going great moves into this house, they may end up in a divorce, because there's houses that have that energetic. But if we balanced it beforehand and had it neutralized, it may actually help the relationship. So there's a lot, like, in terms of the two, we treat them exactly the same. It was just you've got more of a history with the older house.
Yeah. And when it comes to, let's say, calling in something new that is absent versus either maintaining something, like maintaining the status quo, or even reinvigorating, let's say, an existing relationship, an existing business, how would you approach those situations differently? Or are there elements of kind of the same ways that you'd approach it?
I suppose for reinvigorating something, like, I'm a huge fan of like decluttering. If there's something needs to change, you have to change your environment. So doing a big analysis, like just literally review of the stuff that's old or that needs to be looked at. For example, a lady was interviewing a podcast one day, and she was like, I've just been stuck at this same level in my business for the last 5 years. And I was like, well, have a look around your office and tell me, because it happened to be her career area where her office was. And then she kind of had like the penny dropped. She's like, I moved into this office 5 years ago, and all of that paperwork, those boxes, have been there 5 years. And I'm like, well, that's just 5 years of stagnant energy. Nothing has moved. Like, it hasn't moved. So of course you're not going to have moved. So you can certainly just take some time to go back through your house and analyze it and be like, okay, well, what's not being moved? What's here, what's stale, what's stagnant, what's not being used, what's not flowing, if you want to reinvigorate something.
So if someone is wanting to embark upon spring cleaning, let's say that there are boxes that have been there forever, or there just hasn't been a lot of intentionality, how would you recommend that someone begin an intentional spring cleaning process, going a step beyond, what feels good, what doesn't? Are there any other nuances?
I think for me, a big part is just actually doing a little meditation and setting your intention on not even what feels good, but where do you want to go? You can use your home like a vision board for your future. And where do you want to go? What is your vision for where you're going? And does this item align with that? Does this item align with where you're going, with the future you want to create? And if not, let it go. It might still feel good, but if it's holding you back, time to go. So there's a whole dance with that, and it's a bigger picture of just that intentional holding your bigger vision for yourself, and then tuning in is just like, is this helpful or not?
So you mentioned this idea of a career area. So for example, in a home office, you mentioned facing the door. So I'm curious about more of what is a career area? How do you know where it is in your home and how can you optimize it?
So essentially, in feng shui, just like I said, there's a lot of marriage area. In feng shui, there's a thing called a bagua map, which plots out where every area of your home is. There's different schools of feng shui, and I use the classical flying stars, which is more a compass school. So we use compasses. And so again, it's the same as the bedroom. For me, for someone on listening on the podcast, the easiest thing for you for your career area is not to think about where that is, because trying to get a compass and figure it all out is going to be a bit tricky. But I would say just where you're working from is the first point of call, because that's where you're spending the most time. So rather than focusing on career, let's focus on the area that you spend your time at. And I talked about, for your workspace, a few things. One, as I said, sit with your back to a wall with a nice strong chair so that you can see what's coming. If you sit with your back to the door, oftentimes the chi and the energy is coming in, and it can create a lot of overwhelm. Also, just from like a fight or flight response energy, you're kind of like, you have your back up because you can't see what's coming. So we naturally increase our kind of like our free state, and it can be very, very kind of like unconsciously we are tenser with our back to the door. So if you just put yourself around and you have the wall behind you, you can see the door. You relax a little bit more, but you also have space to see what's coming. And with your back to the door, you a lot of unexpected surprises can happen, and you can be like, I didn't see that coming. Of course, you didn't see that coming. So the other nice thing about sitting facing with this space in front of you is that you have that sense of spaciousness in front of you. So you've got like space to expand and to create. Whereas if your desk is up against a wall, or I remember ages ago, talking to a lady, and she started changing her desk immediately around as I was on the call with her, because she's just like, I think, if you're stuck in a corner, you could feel cornered in. She's like, I feel like I'm going nowhere. And I'm like, exactly, because there's nowhere to go. You're stuck in the corner. Now, what if you can't move your desk and you're all listening, oh, I'm stuck in the corner, I'm feeling cornered. And what can you put in front of you? Like, can you put your vision board? Can you put some like piece of art that's like, this is the direction I'm going in. That's what I want to see. This is where I'm going. Like, so create that bigger picture for yourself.
Yeah. And gosh, my understanding is that, for example, it's not great to be facing your door in your bedroom. Can you tell us more about, let's say, if someone has tendencies towards insomnia or not sleeping well, what are some simple things that they can do in their bedroom to optimize that experience?
So the bedroom, exactly what I said earlier about the bedroom, is like, make sure it's balanced and harmonized, but like in terms of like relationship stuff. And then make sure that it is a sanctuary. You want to be like, this is a sanctuary. This is where I need to rest. It needs to be rest, romance, and relaxation. So for example, under the bed, nothing should be under your bed. Do not sleep on, like, I have found broken computers, not of mine, not under my bed, but like people have had broken computers, divorce files, old clothes, love letters from ex-boyfriends that have now died. Like, you could not believe the random stuff underneath people's beds. Engagement rings from marriages that didn't go ahead. Like that stuff, all that emotional stuff packed underneath your bed, which is your unconscious. Like, I'm not looking at it, so I'm just going to put it under there. So clear out under the bed, declutter your bedroom. So again, artwork is going to have a big, big, big thing there. Like, keep it calm, keep it neutral, no big fire colors, no reds, because it's going to create more anxiety, too much fiery energy. You want to just think, does this feel like a sanctuary? Declutter it, books, exercise equipment, all that stuff that's kind of busy, you don't want in your bedroom.
Okay, so that's really helpful. And when it comes to the rise of digital nomad culture and people whose home environment is shifting on a monthly basis pretty consistently, or let's say even people going on a vacation that are conscious of, let's say that their home is feng shui, there was a lot of intentionality, time put into that. Are there any things that you would recommend that people pack with them, or maybe the first thing that they should do when they're in a new temporary space?
I would say the very first thing to do is before you even book the place, like set an intention, like before you book it, that you're going to find a place that's super supportive and like kind of put that out there first. And then look at the photos and like tune in and be like, am I picking this because it's cheap or am I picking this because it feels really good for me? You know, am I picking it because the bedroom looks very calm? You know, I have stayed in crazy places over the years and artwork and, you know, covered the art as well over the night. So set the intention first. The second thing I would say is, you know, it's very hard to change other places, but the reviews are going to give you an insight. Like tune into your own heart. It's going to know because it's only a temporary place. It's not that big of a deal. But also, I like to bring like and do maybe a space clearing. It's not going to change the feng shui of the place, but I would also always like make sure when I'm looking at photos of a bedroom that the bed has like a headboard that I can see the door. I would kind of just give a little picture, like I'd kind of not want loads of red or lots of red in the place because it's kind of too much fire element. Yeah, do a space clearing.
Yeah. So what is the impact of having a headboard versus not?
So a headboard represents support.
Yes. Okay. So now I'm curious about what the floor represents and a couple of follow-up questions from the floor, your stance on rugs and shoes on or shoes off in a home.
So floors, as long as they're like steady. So for example, like if you talked about Victorian home, the Victorian home has all squeaky floors and the wood is all broken and all that, that's not going to be very good. Like it's going to be way so like you want to keep the floor solid and like you know very easy, no like cracks or broken stuff. So try and keep that as smooth as possible. That's the floors. The second thing would be you asked about rugs. I don't have a massive opinion about rugs. Like they're lovely. I have a lovely rug here in my bed, in my office. I have one in our living room, all over our house. I typically don't have like red rugs because red is going to be a lot of fire element, and I don't know if it's going to be helpful. Well, I do know whether it'll be helpful or not, so I don't have them in my house. And then shoes on, shoes off. I actually surprisingly have my shoes on today. I think it was because I was cold when I came in today, but most of the time I like shoes off. And you know, your shoes have been outside in the world, gathering energy, gathering chi, and I think that you're better off having them off. Now, if your feet are really cold, like you just have to. I think for me, I'm also really practical about things. So my feet were cold, so I would get my shoes on today. But most of the time, they'll be off. And for most people, I'd recommend having shoes off, just to connect with the earth and be more grounded.
Yes, and you know, when it comes to feng shui and its relationship with optimism and how optimism paired with feng shui creates results, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So feng shui basically is alchemy, and it is I mentioned acupuncture for your home and optimism. You know, when your house is balanced and harmonized, your home is tapped into universal source energy. It is in alignment and in balance, like the Tao, into this thin line of just flow. So that ultimately is where everyone wants to live. We want to live in this place where everything is flowing. It's easy. It's life is good, and that's what I hear from my clients. Like I literally had a client the other day sharing she's lost 47 pounds. She's 58. She's lost 47 pounds. She started a new business. She's happier, healthier, and fitter than she's ever wanted to be. As she embraced her her environment and started tapping into that. So as she balanced her physical environment, it balanced her, helped her let go of the excess, helped her call in new opportunities at work, and just then that's that ripple effect. So it all starts at home.
Yeah, and you know, as we wrap up here, I'm curious, how do you define ambition?
How do I define ambition? I define it as persistence. So I think that people have always said to me that I'm very ambitious, and it's not that I'm ambitious, I'm just persistent. Like I love, like if something like Feng Shui now is my thing. I see results from it. I want to keep going. I want more people to get results from this. And you just have to keep going. I remember years ago, a friend of mine saying to her husband when I started my holistic practice, and he was just like, she's kind of crazy. And he said to me, you stuck at it, and if you believe in something and you stick with it and you're helping and making a difference, that's what it's all about.
Oh my gosh, snaps for that. And, in that vein, in a word, in a phrase, what does holistic ambition mean to you?
Holistic ambition is the Tao. It's feng shui. It is tapping into the flow. Yeah.
Tapping into the flow. Okay. Patricia, thank you so much. So many insights, and I know that people will come away from this episode with very tangible to-do items. But for those that want to dig deeper with you and stay connected, how can they do that?
I would recommend coming to patricialohan.com/101. That is a mini course that I have created that absolutely is so powerful in just giving you the principles of feng shui and how it really works and some next steps. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. And I would love to invite you to join me. That's patricialohan.com/101 in the numbers.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Okay, so thank you so much for your time today, Patricia. And I would like to thank everyone at home or wherever you are for watching. And consider this your invitation to subscribe to be the first to know about the next Holistic Ambition episode and speaker in our series. Until next time.